Mr. Corey Frank, I need you to raise your right hand and tell me that your hand is in the air.
My hand is in the air.
Corey Frank, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You put your hand down. All right, Mr. Slender, I believe you said you had a few witnesses.
I've got two in the room right now. The other one stepped out, so
All right,
I may not use the other one. I don't know.
we'll swear them in when we need to. All right, Miss George and your witness, please raise your right hands. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. You can both put your hands down. Now, Mr. Slett, you're handling this case for state, yeah?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any other witnesses besides the parties?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Frank, before we went on the record on this case, I asked if you were ready on this case. You told me that you were not, that you had wished more time to hire an attorney. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, I did reset this case once before in late January to give you an opportunity to hire an attorney, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't hire one between now and then?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to overrule Mr. Frank. Well, let me say it this way. Mr. Slander, do you have any objection to giving Mr. Frank more time?
Yes, sir. I do have an objection. We're ready to go.
Okay. Mr. Slett, do you agree to reset the case for Mr. Frank to get time to hire an attorney?
Well, no objection from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, but Mr. Slander does. So that's unfortunately, Mr. Frank, that's all it takes is one. So I'm going to overrule Mr. Frank's request to reset the case again to hire an attorney. Mr. Slett, you can call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I will call Miss George. Who's the father of that child?
Corey Frank.
Okay. Did Mr. Frank sign an acknowledgement of paternity at the hospital when Corey III was born?
He asked, but they didn't do it.
Oh, Your Honor, I'll offer into evidence the acknowledgement of paternity in this case is State's Exhibit A.
No objection.
All right. Mr. Frank, I don't know if you can see this, but I just placed on the record a copy of the alleged acknowledgement of paternity for the child, Corey. Is it okay if I look at this acknowledgement?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. State A is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss George, who does this child live with?
He lives with me
How long has he lived with you?
his whole entire life for 5 years.
Okay. When did you and Mr. Frank separate?
August of 2022.
Okay, so who makes the day-to-day decisions for the child?
I do.
Okay, how often does the father help out with making those decisions?
He don't help at all.
Okay. Now, since the time that you and the father separated, how often does the father visit with the child?
He don't.
Okay. When is the last time that he visited with the child?
December of last year.
Okay. Now, since that time, since December of last year, since the last time that the father visited with the child, has he called and asked or anything like that, or have you heard anything from him?
Just once.
Okay. And what did he ask you?
He asked if he could get him, but we were already out of town.
Okay. Was that on a weekend?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you were out of town that weekend, so you couldn't.
Yes, sir.
All right. What concerns would you have if the father were to exercise visitation with the child?
Drinking and smoking.
Okay. Are you concerned that the father would be doing those things around the child?
Correct.
Okay. What makes you have that concern?
In October, my son called because Corey was drunk, and
you can't tell me what the child told you, Miss George.
He had called. We were all on the phone. And I heard Corey in the background, and his words were, "Sir, he was drunk." I had to go pick him up and bring him back to his house.
When was that?
October of last year.
Okay, and so were the police called at that time?
No, sir, they were not.
But since then, so that happened in October. You said that that father had visited with the child since then in December, right?
In December. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was for his birthday.
Okay. For just to be clear, whose birthday? The child or the father?
That was for the child's birthday.
Got it. Thank you.
2 days before Christmas.
Got it. Okay. Ms. George, how's the child covered on medical insurance currently?
He has Medicaid.
All right. Does Mr. Frank, the father, know where you live currently?
Yes, sir, he does.
All right. Now, since y'all separated, you and Mr. Frank, what kind of support has he provided for the child?
He haven't provided any support at all. Only thing he did was give him $50 for his birthday, and that was it.
Okay. Okay. No further questions. I'll pass this witness, Your Honor.
Your witness, Mr. Slander.
Thank you. Anisha, after y'all quit living together, you've been letting him see the child whenever he wanted to, basically. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But that changed after October because of the incident with him drinking and driving with the children. Is that right?
Correct.
He didn't have not only your child in the car, he had 2 children by another person. Is that right?
That's correct.
Without telling me what the kids say, did you actually get a phone call from their tablet while they were in the car when Mr. Frank was driving?
Yes, I did.
And did the child sound to you to be scared and frightened?
Yes, he was.
Did child couldn't tell you where he was though, except in a car? Is that right?
That's correct.
Ultimately, y'all located Mr. Frank and the kids. Is that right?
That's correct.
Because you were so fearful of their safety, you and your some of your family members went out through the city looking for him. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did y'all ultimately find him at the McDonald's on Major Drive and College Street?
Yes, we did.
And what did you find when you got there?
He was parked on top of the gas pump.
Okay.
Well, I
Now,
can't hear you.
He was parked on top of the gas pump.
Now, he didn't knock it down, but he was so close to it, a door couldn't even open.
Correct.
Okay. And when you got there, was he intoxicated?
Yes, he was.
Was he very intoxicated?
He was.
Did he actually throw up?
Yes, he did.
Could he even walk without assistance?
No, he could not.
This was immediately after y'all got there, soon after you got there. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So could you deduce from that he had been driving in that condition with your children or your child and the other 2 children?
Yes.
When you got there, did you get your grandmother and grandfather to help you with transporting the different cars around?
Yes, I did.
Did y'all take Mr. Frank home to his apartment?
Yes, we did.
Did you have to assist him to get out of his car or get out of y'all's car and walk to his apartment to get in?
Yes, we did.
When you opened the door, somebody opened the door to that apartment, what fragrance overwhelmed you when you opened the door?
It smelled like marijuana.
Okay. And did you assist him to get in?
Yes, but the person who was there, she helped him to the bed.
Okay. Now, under any circumstances or whatever visitation the court orders for Mr. Frank, you're asking the court to order him not to consume alcoholic beverages at least 12 hours before and during the visitation of your child. Is that right?
That's correct.
You're asking for the visitation to be supervised. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He hasn't bothered to see the child since December, and he's only seen the child twice since October.
Correct.
Okay. Or actually once since October, December.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right. Now, Mr. Frank has a history of some violence with you, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Was there an occasion in 2021 that he actually busted your nose and did some facial damage to you.
That's correct.
How did he do that?
He was drinking and he was drinking and he got violent. And
Did it cause you injuries?
yes, it did.
Were you bleeding?
Yes.
Did you actually call your grandmother to come help you get out of that situation?
Yes, I did.
Did she observe the blood on your face?
Yes, she did.
Prior to that date, was there an occasion on Crow Road that an altercation occurred?
Yes, it was.
Had he been drinking at that time?
Yes, he have.
What did he do to you then?
I got maced.
By him?
Yes.
In 2022, at your apartment, not the same apartment you're in now, but a same apartment complex at Pendo.
Yes, correct.
What did he do to you then?
He hit me in the head with my gun.
Okay. Why'd you have a gun in your hand?
We were tussling over it because he had it. I don't know if he was trying to harm me or what.
So he had your gun
Yes.
and you were trying to take it away from him?
Yes.
Okay. And he hit you with it?
Yes.
Did that cause you injury?
Yes, I had a knot on my head.
Did your grandmother come and help you get out of that situation?
Yes, she did.
So she saw the after effects of both of these incidences?
Yes.
She didn't see them occur, but she saw the after effects?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, has Mr. Frank told you about his income?
Yes, he did.
What did he tell you he makes per hour?
$27.
Okay. And what kind of hours has he been working in the past?
He's been working 7/12s. It means 7 days a week, 12 hours a day.
And that's one of the reasons y'all were having to work around a schedule. You were willing to work with him on a visitation schedule around that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Has this schedule of this 7/12 been going on for quite some time?
Yes, sir.
He works out at the refinery, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Not for the refinery.
No, for a temp company.
Okay. A subcontractor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're asking court to set child support based on his current earnings or that earnings, which is I calculate to be $2,862 gross per week.
That's correct.
You're asking for retroactive child support at least till from October 22 when y'all separated.
It was August.
I'm sorry, August 22 when y'all separated. He hasn't helped you with anything since then.
That's correct.
Okay. You're asking to be named a sole managing conservator and him a possessory conservator of the child based on the history of family violence.
That's correct.
Are all these requests we're making, do you believe to be in the child's best interest?
Yes.
I pass the witness.
Your witness, Mr. Slett.
Nothing further from this witness, Your Honor.
Call your next witness, Mr. Slett.
Okay, I'll call Mr. Frank. Well, let's talk a little bit first, Mr. Frank, about where you work. What are you doing for work right now, Mr. Frank?
I'm working as a contractor, like she stated, for Brand Safeway. Yes, sir. The 7/12s, I've only been working them for the past 2 weeks. That's not a permanent thing. I'm usually at set base pay at 40 hours. And yes, sir.
Okay. Are you working a turnaround right now?
Yes, sir. I'm currently working the turnaround, but the turnaround will be over at the end of this month.
Okay. And when the turnaround is over, will you be working 40 hours a week?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is your base pay?
My base pay is $23 an hour.
All right. How long have you been at this job?
I've been here since the beginning of this year.
Okay. So just about 2 months. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. What were you doing before? What were you doing for work before then?
Before that, I was also working I was still working at the refinery, but I was working for a different contractor for Apache, and we were based at 40, 50 hours a week.
Okay. And what was your pay there?
It was a little less, 21 an hour.
All right. And what type of work are you doing?
Scaffold building.
Okay. And was it the same between your last two jobs? Were you doing scaffold
Yes.
building in both of
Yes,
those?
sir. It's the same field, same craft.
Got you. Okay. So Mr. Frank, you heard Ms. George testify that since you and her separated around August of 22, that you haven't provided any support for the child. Is that right?
That's a complete lie.
What
What
support have you provided?
So we was kind of on when we first separated, we was kind of on like a custody thing where I was getting them on weekends because I was working a different job around that time. I was currently getting them every weekend, but she had complete control of that and would kind of like jerk around the situations, like would try to control the custody when I get them, so I really never had a chance to spend time with them or ever have them because she would deny me getting them because he would go with her family,
Okay,
her
Mr.
grandma.
Mr. Frank, just make sure you answer the question that I'm asking you. All right,
We have an
we'll try to get
objection,
to it.
Mr. Slett, to Mr. Frank's answer.
Objection. It's not responsive.
Okay, suspect.
Yes, thank you. The question, Mr. Frank, is what support have you provided since you two have separated?
Everything. I would always ask her whatever he needed. I would provide my own clothing for him whenever he would come over. I would provide his own food. Anything. When I had custody of him, when any chance that she would allow me to have custody of him, that would be the type of, support I would provide for him.
Okay.
I bought all the school clothes.
Mr. Frank, I'm sorry. Let me ask the question. Have you provided monetary support directly to Miss George for the support of the child?
Yes, sir, but she would reject it most of the time.
Okay, what does that mean? How would
I would offer to send her money. I would ask her, does Third need anything, which is my son's name? She would say, no, he good. She would say, yeah, he need this. I would tell her to find him some clothes to wear, pick him out some clothes. She would never get back with me on that. So, it was kind of hard to provide direct support. So the only support I would provide, I would keep, when I would have custody of him.
Okay, Mr. Frank, do you have insurance available, through health insurance available through your job that you could put the child on?
I haven't been with this contractor long enough to, be eligible for insurance. I've actually tried to look into it from the last virtual meeting we had, but I couldn't get into contact directly with the employer. And I've been busy working 7/12, so it's been kind of hard to.
All listed on there.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Frank, you heard Ms. George testify about an incident that occurred in 2022, where she testified that there was a tussle over a gun and you ended up hitting her with it.
That was something she made. That was a complete lie and something she made up just to paint a narrative of, to favor her.
Was there an incident where you tussled over a gun?
No, sir. I never even owned a gun in 2022. Oh, what she says is her gun?
Yes.
I don't know, sir. I don't recall this incident.
Okay. Do you recall the incident that she testified about where she testified that you were driving a vehicle with the children in it, and you were intoxicated. Do you recall that incident?
Yes, I recall the incident, but it was a total lie. I was not intoxicated at the moment, and it was a big altercation between me and her.
Okay. Well, if you weren't intoxicated, why would she believe that you're intoxicated?
Because she's trying to paint a narrative for me to not be able to see my son.
Okay. Mr. Frank, when's the last time you visited with the child?
I've had third at the beginning, or Corey Frank the third. I've had him at the beginning of this month. I actually called for him last weekend, and she denied me custody of him because she said it was her birthday weekend and she had plans. I begged and pleaded with her, could I please see him? I've been working turnarounds. We finally get a fatigue day, and I just want to be able to spend time with my son. She didn't allow it, disagreed. She said it was her birthday weekend and moved forward. I just went with it.
Okay. So before that, I mean, before that time that you just talked about, have you requested visitation with your son and been denied?
Yes, sir. I've been denied plenty of times, and that's all I want is to be able to have weekend custodies of my son. I have two other kids that I'm currently paying child support with, and I get them every weekend with no problem. The custody agreement between me and the other mother is perfectly fine. We don't even have to go through the court system. I just get them every weekend.
Well, if you're working every weekend, how do you get your other kids every weekend?
So she has a good relationship with my mother as well. So if I'm working, if I'm not able to get them, they'll stay with her for a little while, and I'll be able to get them out there. And I've also only been working 7/12 for the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
So before that, it was the weekends was perfectly open for me and available.
Okay. I have no further questions. This witness, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
Your witness, Mr. Slander.
Thank you. Mr. Frank, what period of time were you working 7/12s in 2023?
I've just started working. I've never was working 7/12 in 2023. I've just started working 2012, and I just started working 7/12 in 2024. Sorry.
You never worked any 7/12s in 2023. Is that your testimony?
Yes, sir.
So you understand you're under oath, don't you?
I'm under oath.
What were the most hours per week which you were working in 2023?
I maybe worked 6 10s at the most.
How long did you work 6 10s?
Maybe for a couple of weeks, and it wasn't consistent. I maybe worked it 1 week if they needed the work done that week. Maybe another month from now, maybe worked another. But my base was 5 10s, which was 50 hours a week.
And what was the name of that employer?
Apache Industrial.
And what's the name of your employer right now?
Brand Energy Solutions. Or they might have a new name changed to Brand Safeway.
And did you ever make $27 an hour?
I've never made $27 an hour.
Okay. So let's talk about the incident in October. You remember that you had to be picked up and taken home?
Yes, I remember the incident. It was an altercation and I told her I wasn't drunk. Nothing was wrong.
But they took you home, didn't they?
No, she didn't take me home. I took myself home.
In what vehicle did you take yourself home in?
In my car, my vehicle.
Did you remember seeing her grandmother and grandfather there?
Yes, her grandmother was with her.
You remember seeing his grandfather come in a separate car?
Yes, I remember.
One of them drove your car, didn't they?
No, I drove my own car.
You remember throwing up there at the McDonald's?
No.
You could have, you just don't remember?
I didn't throw up.
Where had you been that evening?
I was at my brother's wedding.
Okay. How much had you been drinking?
I didn't drink too much.
How much though?
Maybe a shot.
How long did the wedding reception last?
The radio reception lasted maybe a couple of hours.
And you only had one shot?
Yes, sir. Maybe one shot.
Maybe more?
Nah, maybe one.
Did your car collide with anything and lose its bumper that night?
No, sir. My bumper is still intact on my car.
Do you remember hitting her in 2021 when you were drunk?
No, I don't know.
You're denying ever hitting her?
Yes, sir.
You're denying ever bloodying her face?
Yes, sir.
You get off this 712s, what's your is that going to be the 510s then?
No, 40 hours. 40 hours based at Brand Safeway.
I know. So when do you expect to do overtime after the 712s?
When do I expect to do overtime?
Yes, sir.
After these 712s are over, I'm going back to regular time, which is 40 hours.
Well, regular time before was 510s, wasn't it?
That was at Apache. I work at Brand Safeway now.
Okay. I pass witness.
Your witness, Mr. Slett.
Nothing further. This witness, Your Honor.
Call your next witness, Mr. Slett.
No further witnesses. State rests.
Mr. Slander, it's your case. Do you have any additional witnesses that you wish to call?
Yes, sir, I do. I don't want to call the grandmother.
She's been sworn.
Were you present 2020 on Crow Road when you had to pick up your granddaughter after she had been hit by Mr. Frank with a gun?
That was on, that was in Pendle Circle.
Okay. Were you present then when that happened? Afterwards?
Yes, I came.
Did you have to pick her up?
Yes, I did.
Was she crying and upset?
Yes, she was.
That she called you to pick her up?
Yes,
Did she tell you what had happened?
yes,
Okay. Did you see a knot on her head from that?
yes, I did.
Okay. In 2020 on Crow Road, did she call you upset?
Yes,
Did you pick her up from that occasion?
yes, I did.
Did she tell you what happened?
Yes,
Was her face irritated and eyes irritated looks like Mace had gotten her?
yes, it was.
Okay. Did you pick her up in 2021 on Park Street?
Yes, I did.
Do you do that based on her calling you because she was upset and needed help?
Yes, her face was bloody.
Did she tell you what had happened?
Yes, she said he had hit her head up against the concrete, and I did speak with him on that occasion.
Um,
And I spoke with him that same night.
Did he appear to you be intoxicated on those
Yes,
occasions?
he was.
You think he has a drinking problem?
Yes, I do.
On October 14th of 2023, did y'all get, did your granddaughter get a call from a tablet from her then barely almost 5-year-old son, expressing some fear about what was going on in the car?
Yes, and I also got a call from him as well.
Okay. And did you and your granddaughter and your husband go out searching for her child and the car they were in with Mr. Frank?
Yes,
Did y'all ultimately find it at the corner of Major Drive and College Street?
yes, at the McDonald's.
Okay. There at the gas pump?
But it was really on top of the gas pump almost.
Okay. When we say on top, to me, that I'm thinking that you knock the gas pump down and we're going to have an explosion.
It was so close to the gas pump that you couldn't open the door. The thing that go on the gas pump was almost off. The gas would go in the thing.
Did you have occasion to actually see and observe Mr. Frank's demeanor and behavior?
He was slumped over. He was still up on the car was still on. He was slumped over the car, over the steering wheel. My husband had to reach. We had to ask the kids to unlock the door. I said, "Hurry up and unlock the door, because the car was still on. We were scared it was going to explode." The twins, he had got a set of twins. They unlocked the door, and I had told them to get out the car. My husband had to reach in there and turn the car off. You know, the car was still running. He had to turn the car off. He got Corey out. He had to drag Corey out. It was a fifth of whiskey. It was a fifth of whiskey that was still open. The container was still open. Our Anisha came around the corner, and when she was fussing at Corey, "Why are you in here with these kids like this?" He was steady throwing up. My husband had to drag him out the car. We had to put him in. My husband drove one car. I drove one car. Our Anisha friend drove the other car.
Okay.
We had to follow behind each other to take him home. My husband and our Anisha had to get him out the car and literally almost towed him up to his apartment. He stayed upstairs. And they had to get him up them stairs to take him to his apartment. He didn't know where he was. He really didn't know where he was.
Okay. Because it's so drunk.
He was out of it.
Okay.
Out of it.
All right. And when how did his car get home?
We drove it home.
He didn't drive anything, did he?
He couldn't. He was not able.
Okay. Was there a bumper off or something damage to his car on something?
It was yes, sir. The bumper was missing, but the rearview mirror, whatever he hit, it was gone. It was completely gone off the car.
Did you see him hit anything, ma'am? I thought you said
I didn't see him hit anything.
Let's
but
just stick to what she saw, Mr. Slender, please.
Well, she saw a missing mirror, Judge. She can say that.
She doesn't know how it happened.
Well, that's
the reason I said that is
That's
because
okay,
my
ma'am.
grandbaby.
Please don't contradict. Let's just stick to what she saw, Mr. Slender. That's enough.
You don't know how the mirror came off, but there was a mirror gone.
Yes.
Okay. You don't know how the bumper came off, but there was a bumper gone.
Yes.
Okay. Did y'all actually put the bumper back in the car and take it home?
At least you put it in there.
Okay. So his car got home from y'all's driving it.
Yes.
How did the two twins, the two kids that are not Anisha's, get home? Did y'all leave them with him at that time?
She called his mom.
Okay.
Anisha called Corey's mother and told her what had happened. And his mother, I guess, apparently went over there and got the twins from his apartment.
But in any event, your grandchild, Anisha's child, went home with her.
Yes.
Okay. I pass witness.
You have any questions, Mr. Sled?
I don't have any questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Ma'am, I have one question. You said that on the night that Miss George called you with her face bloody, you said later that night you had a conversation with Mr. Frank. Is that correct?
I didn't have it. I had it the same night that I went over there that her face was bloody. I was talking to Corey and asked him what had happened. Why did he do that? He said, because she was messing with me.
Okay. So he admitted to you that he caused the injuries to her face?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Slade.
That's all I have.
Do you have any other witnesses, Mr. Slander?
No, sir.
Okay. So I got a rest from Mr. Sled. I got a rest from Mr. Slander. I got some questions. They always seem to come at me like this. Miss George, you detailed several incidents of family violence between you and Mr. Frank. So I'm assuming that Mr. Frank has gone to jail several times after you called the police on him.
I never called the police.
Ah, that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, if he'd have hit me with a gun, I'd have called the police. If he'd have punched me in the face, I'd have called the police. You said you detailed an incident that, but you continued to reside with him all the way up until August of 2022. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And since August of 2022, since y'all have been separated, has there been any incidents of family violence between you and Mr. Frank?
No, sir.
All right. And since y'all have been separated in August of 2022, you detailed, was there pretty regular and steady contacts between Corey and his dad up until, last fall? So from August of 2022 until August of 2023, was Mr. Frank having pretty regular contacts with his son?
No, he was not.
Okay. So how often in that year's time was he spending time with Corey?
He will call like twice or 3 times a month.
I don't consider calls to be spending time. That's calls. I'm talking about actual physical.
Probably twice.
So in that entire year, the father only had 2 visits with his son.
Yes, sir. He
Okay.
was
Why? Why didn't dad have more time with his son?
because he was too busy jumping from relationship to relationship. He wasn't worried about getting him.
Okay. So it's your position, ma'am, that he just the child wasn't a priority.
Yes, that's correct.
Did Mr. Frank contact you to try to have a day visit with Corey because Mr. Frank had an exhaustion day?
Yes, but we were
Did you
already
tell him? Did you tell him that he couldn't have the contact because it was your birthday weekend?
I told him it was my birthday weekend and we were already out of town.
Where were you?
We were in Houston.
Okay, not that far.
No, not that far.
But there's been no issues between you and Mr. Frank since y'all separated, correct?
No, sir.
I mean, there's some real issues in regards to the child, and we're gonna get to that. But I'm just trying to staple down this relationship between you and Mr. Frank. Okay.
Okay.
Did Mr. Frank offer to give you money and you tell him you didn't want it?
That is incorrect.
Okay. So you never turned down money from Mr. Frank.
I never did.
Okay. Did you ever ask him for money?
I've always asked him for help, and it's always an excuse.
Always.
Yes, sir.
Always is a long time.
I ask him for help, and it's always an excuse.
I believe you. I believe you. And he does have 2 other children or 3?
Yes, sir. He has 2 other children.
2 other, a set of twins.
Yes, sir.
What kind of time did Mr. Frank get to spend with Corey for Christmas?
He didn't even call him for Christmas.
What about his birthday? I mean, didn't he just have his 5th birthday a couple weeks ago?
Yes, sir. He was only there for 30 minutes, and it was to sing happy birthday.
Okay, but he did stop by.
Yes.
Did he bring him a gift?
He only gave him $50.
Okay. Well, so he brought him
Yeah.
some money. Hey, better than nothing.
Yeah, that's better than nothing.
So, Miss George, do you want Mr. Frank to have visitation with the child?
Yes, but I want supervised visits.
Okay. And why do you think that Mr. Frank's visitation ought to be supervised?
Because I don't know when he's drinking or when he's smoking.
Your testimony to me at this point in time is that since you and Mr. Frank separated in August of 2022, Mr. Frank has had very little contact with him.
That's correct.
Has he ever had Corey overnight by himself?
Yes.
When was the last time he had Corey by himself overnight?
Mm, I'm not sure. I can't really remember the actual date.
Can you give me the month and the year?
It was last year. It was in 2023, but I don't really remember the month.
All right, Mr. Frank, you have two other dependents that are a set of twins. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how old are they?
They're 6 years old.
They live here local?
Yes, sir. They live in Beaumont as well.
Did you admit to Miss George's grandmother that there was an altercation between you and Miss George got punched?
No, sir.
You didn't admit that?
No, sir.
So the grandmother's just lying to me?
Yes, they're both trying to paint a narrative together.
I didn't ask you to explain it to me. I just asked you if you thought they were lying.
Yes, sir.
And the grandmother stated that when they pulled you out of the car in October that there was a bottle of whiskey in there. You're denying that there was any booze in the car?
Yes, sir.
When they found you at the McDonald's or the gas station, wherever it was on College Street that night, did you drive the children back to your apartment or did they drive the children back to your apartment?
I did.
Okay, you drove them back?
Yes, sir.
Now, you've been separated from Miss George since August of 2022. Is that correct, Mr. Frank?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And you've been working construction off and on, mostly on, since y'all separated. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you generally work most of the time, have a job at some point in time. Is that right?
I'm consistently with a job. I've only been working construction for about a year, but before that, I've had a consistent job. When me and Miss George first separated, I was working as a delivery for FedEx.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so, but the construction that you've been basically working is anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week, pretty consistent since you started working construction.
Yes, I would say about 40 hours would be about consistent because you also got to consider the rain outs and, the shutdown days.
I understand.
So, yes, sir.
I know the business. I know the scaffolding business. You've always been in construction with the scaffolding business?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, that's my craft.
Right.
Yes, sir.
When was the last time you got to spend time with Corey?
I just recently had Corey, my son, sometime this month.
Now, it can't be this month, Mr. Frank. This is March the 1st.
I'm sorry. Within the last month, probably at the beginning of February.
So you're testifying that you had Corey in your possession in February of 2024.
Yes, sir.
Miss George says that you haven't seen your child since forever.
Miss George,
hold on. Miss George, did he get to spend time with Corey in February of 2024?
No, he didn't.
Okay. Wow, I just got him. Somebody's lying.
Yeah, somebody is. And I can also
that's okay.
I can also tell you she's not telling the truth about me consistently seeing him. I've coached Corey on the T-ball team, him and his siblings, his two twin sisters, for the last year. And he also played football, and I coached his football team, and she pulled him out of the team. She pulled him out of the league, out of my control. So me and Corey, this was last football season, so I would say around September of 2023. Yes, sir.
All right. Miss George, did you take him off the football team last fall?
Yes, sir, I did.
Why?
Because he did not like to play football.
Okay. But he didn't want to tell his daddy that. Why didn't he tell his daddy he didn't want to play?
His dad wasn't even at the practices.
Okay.
He was supposed to be an assistant coach, but he only went to one practice and that was it.
How many practices you go to, Mr. Frank?
I went to all of his practices.
Okay. You know, again,
And I coach.
somebody
And
lying.
before that, I was the head coach of his T-ball team.
Okay.
I was the head coach. I ran the whole organization for his team for the whole year straight.
Okay. Mr. Frank, you said that you offered to give the mother money after y'all separated. Did you kind of like put that money aside just in case you came to court someday, you'd be able to pay it?
Yes, sir. I mean,
Okay, so
I don't.
you
I have.
got all that money put aside somewhere. Are you ready to turn that over when I order it?
Yes, I have no problem paying. I just want my custody. I just want to be able to see my son on a
Well,
consistent basis.
me too, Mr. Frank. Me too. I want you to be able to see him too. I'm sure he wants to see you.
Yes, sir. He loves me. I love him.
Right. Anything further, Mr. Sled?
No, nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Schlender?
No, sir.
Mr. Frank, before I make a ruling on this case, is there anything further you think I need to know?
No, sir.
Okay.
Nothing I can think of at the moment.
Right. The court's going to find the court has jurisdiction in this case. The court's going to find based on the testimony of all the parties and all the witnesses. It's not in Corey's best interest to name the parties as joint managed conservators. Miss George will be the sole managing conservator. Mr. Frank will be a possessory conservator. Any request for non-disclosure in this case is denied. There will be a domicile restriction. Both parties reside in Jefferson County. So as per the local rule, there's going to be a domicile restriction. I'll order Miss George to maintain the current health insurance that she has on the child. Mr. Frank's going to pay child support based on the testimony that I heard. Child support is going to be $710 per month. Medical support is going to be $100 a month. Retroactive child support, the amount of $12,780. All payments beginning March the 1st, Mr. Schlett. I'm going to order $75 a month to be paid toward the retroactive child support. There's going to be a phased-in visitation schedule with 6 visits at each phase. That'll be 6 supervised visits, followed by 6 unsupervised visits for half a day, followed by 6 unsupervised visits for the day, followed by 6 one-night overnight visits. There's no drinking around the child, period. That applies to Miss George as well. So no drinking around the child by Mr. Frank, no drinking around the child by Miss George. No use of any illegal drugs or substances while in possession of the child. Okay. Court cost by Mr. Frank, but if I didn't say September 30th of 2024.
Just one thing, Your Honor. The retro was, what was that total amount?
$12,780 payable at $75 a month, also beginning March 1st.
Got it. Thank you.
Does the state hear all the terms and conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Slander, I'm assuming you wish to review and sign.
Yes, sir.
All right. Perfectly fine. I'm glad you will. I think I've told you before. I wish more attorneys would review and sign documents before they just let me have them. All right. Miss George and Mr. Frank, what's going to happen now is Mr. Schlett's office is going to prepare a court order based on my ruling. And then he's going to send it over to Mr. Schlander. If Mr. Schlander agrees that that is what I said, Mr. Schlander is going to sign it. If Mr. Schlander doesn't agree that that's what I said, then we're going to have another hearing. But generally speaking, it's just the form of the orders. They're just making sure that's correct. Once they both sign it, they'll send it to me and I'll sign it. Once I sign it, I send it back to them and they make copies of it and they send it to everybody. I told you that to tell you this. You don't have to be satisfied with the ruling that I've made today. If either party is dissatisfied, you have 3 business days to which to file written notice of appeal with the district clerk's office in Jefferson County. Remember, it's got to be in writing. You got to file it with the Jefferson County district clerk's office. You got to be specific. In your appeal, you have to tell the referring court what part of my ruling you disagree with, and you also are responsible for sending a copy of that written appeal to all the other non-appealing parties. I tell you that, Mr. Frank, Mr. Schlander knows what the law is. He'll explain it to his client. Mr. Frank, you're an unrepresented, you're not an attorney. You need to understand that you don't know when I'm going to sign the court order because it has to go to Mr. Shalander and then it'll get to me eventually. So you don't know when I'm going to sign it. So you don't know when your 3 days is going to run if you wish to file written appeal. Well, I tell you that to tell you this. Get your appeal in before I sign the order. And that way you know it's in on time. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Again, you don't have to appeal, Mr. Frank, but I want you to know what your rights are in case that's what you wish to do. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Frank, Miss George, and your witnesses as well. You're both free to go. You're all free to go. Mr. Schlander, you as well, if you wish